Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Beer Name Podcast, episode 17, the first of 2025. I'm Chris.
I'm Paul.
First one this year, Paul.
I'm thirsty, Chris.
Yeah, should we get straight into it with a beer?
Yeah.
Do you want to start cracking a beer while we do this?
Yeah, I think we just need to explain the reason why we're so thirsty before we get into anything else is because we've just eaten a doner kebab.
A massive kebab.
We've just speed run a kebab eating.
Yeah.
Because we realised we're really hungry. We've got a few bit of beer drinking things to be going on today. So
you need a towel now after that.
Oh, look at me. Soppy sausage. It's all over the place.
You're not talking down your mic either.
I am talking down the mic.
It's a disaster.
I've been talking right down it.
So this is the first one of 2025. And this is also not in January. We always aim to do these once a month, at the very least.
I mean, we've only missed out by one day.
Yeah, we missed out. It's the 1st of February as we're recording this.
On a Saturday.
Yeah. Which isn't usually the case. We usually film these or record these on a weeknight evening, which is always a nice break in the week. But yes, so essentially we've taken a bit of time at the beginning of the year to give the format a little bit of a rejig, a bit of a refresh.
We've had a bit of a think about what we're going to do for 2025, yes. We've got some ideas we're going to implement. We've got some ththings we're going to probably strip out. We're going to streamline. We're going to
streamline. Yes, that's it. We've made some redundancies.
We're going to join LinkedIn.
Yeah. We're going to start getting the strategy walk all fired up.
How the death of my grandmother influenced my multi-tier marketing scheme.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're doing. What we are going to do, though, is we're going to stick with naming the episodes because this is, after all, the Fantasy Beer Name podcast. And for those of you who haven't listened before, the little icebreaker that we utilise as the hook of this podcast, and we sometimes forget about, is we give each episode a name. And I've got a name for this one, Paul.
Go on.
Well, this ties in very nicely with something that we've been up to in January. This episode is called Wheelbarrow Antics.
Rings a bell. Where's this come from?
This comes from the beer that we're drinking here. Well, sort of the beer that we're drinking here. It comes from Baron.
Oh, I see where you're going with this now. Okay.
Because I think what we should do is tell people what we were up to in January. As we gave them a little tease on social media. We posted up that we were down in... I can't remember.
Hertfordshire?
Yeah, Bluntington.
Bluntington in Hertfordshire.
It's on the side of the can, maybe.
Yeah, it is.
It's not Bluntington, it's
Buntingford.
Buntingford. Close enough.
Well, bloody hell.
We're in Bluntington.
I know where your mind is.
Yes. So we were down filming with Baron because he agreed to be part of a very special occasion.
Yes, yeah, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm really keen to get into this beer, actually, Chris, because that kebab has salted my taste buds, something terrible, so I'm dead thirsty. Yeah. But we've got a Baron beer, funnily enough. Actually, it's a collaboration with a brewery who we haven't really heard of. I mean, the name's been popping up a lot recently, but another brewery called Bluntrock. Who, by all accounts, absolutely banging, but I've not tried anything.
They're down in Cornwall, aren't they, I think?
They're in Rock. So
there we go.
The other side of the...
Do you know where else is in Rock?
Go on.
Sharps.
Oh, okay.
Sharps are from
Yes,
Rock.
Of course, you're right.
That's where they originally set up. But I mean, I'm sure the guy from Sharps has just retired now because he's just sold out to Molson Coors.
I was going to say,
let them brew the Doom Bar, eh?
I'm sure that'll be... cease in production soon then.
We'll come on to that later.
Yeah, we'll come into that later. But yeah, so Rock's just over the estuary the river from Padstow, I think, isn't it? Over the Camel River. Yeah. So
it's full of millionaires.
Nice neck in the woods, really.
Full of millionaires.
But this is a 3.4 session pale brewed with Bluntrock. And yeah, it's got Crush, Citra and Pineapple Express hops in it.
Is that some sort of... marijuana reference?
Must be right. I've never heard of Pineapple Express as a hop. It was one of those newfangled kids on the block.
It smells a bit weedy.
Yeah, that'll be why then.
There's a bit of dankness to it going on.
Yeah. So the funk is from Pineapple Express by Abstracts, who must be the manufacturer of this new hop. They've taken weed strains. Here we go. Broken them down into their constituent terpenes, and then built back that flavour with non-cannabis products. Blended in Coldside with some big US hops, it's created something fun and funky. So this is an interesting brew.
Yeah, so terpenes is the stuff that they do for... Umbard did it with that really dank marijuana beer that they make.
Yeah.
And terpenes, it's like the hemp sort of stuff that kind of forms around that.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that stuff is going to make your beer taste like ganja.
Not to be confused with terps.
No,
we don't recommend you drinking.
No.
Although we did drink something very much
I say we can also talk
terps
about
adjacent.
We've got so much
recently
to talk about because we've not been around for a month.
But let's start with the stuff you started to allude to. Our up and coming birthday.
Yeah, we're going to be 3 in this month. We're 3. The channel is 3 on the 20th of Feb.
Old enough to drink in 15 years.
Yep.
Yep.
But we're not. We're not paying any attention to that. We're going to start drinking now. We've been drinking since the day we were born. But yeah, no. So that's fun. We've got something planned. We hooked up with Baron, who agreed to brew a birthday beer for us.
Yeah, good old Jack.
And as you'll see in the upcoming little documentary that we've made, we've done a documentary that's going to go along with this beer that we're launching. This isn't just an exercise in marketing. This isn't just where we say, Jack, can you rebrew or can you just rebadge a beer that we've got in the tank, please? Because it's our birthday and we want to feel involved.
Yeah, we just want to come down for the photo opportunity of us holding a spade.
Yeah.
Although we did do that.
We did do that. I mean, we had to, but we also took it one further, and there's lots of footage of us barrowing.
Yeah,
hence the Wheelbarrow Antics name.
Gotcha. It all comes round eventually. Yeah, so he got us working.
He did get us working, yeah.
Like, you've never done a day's work in your life, have you? Hard labour.
What you ascertained from our little adventure there was that I've got very soft hands.
Very soft hands.
Yeah.
For a man.
Yeah. It's because I've never done any labouring.
You've got the soft hands of a child.
I've always been in the creative services.
Yes.
Actually, I did work at a supermarket.
Did you?
Yeah.
In the bread department, I guess.
I started off in the produce department.
Yeah, soft produce.
And then
not non-aggressive shop.
Yeah.
Shop.
And then I moved over to entertainment.
Oh, okay.
So DVDs, CDs, games. That was fun. It doesn't exist now because of Argos and the internet. So
bloody Argos and the internet.
Yeah, I'm glad I got it when I did.
Yeah, I don't think the internet will ever kick off, to be honest with you.
I think the internet's dead.
Yeah, well, dead internet theory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
anyway.
that should be the next beer name. Dead Internet Theory.
We'll talk about that on a future podcast because it's very interesting.
Very interesting.
And you've been swatting up on that a little bit, haven't you?
Really into it.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, birthday. So we went down and did part 1 of brewing a beer. That's, as we're speaking, fermenting away nicely. So I think the canning's happening end of next week.
Sorry, I'm burping.
If
anyone catches my burps.
Oh man, it was a big kebab.
It was a big kebab.
So yeah, it's going to be canned next week.
It is. It's going to be very green because, okay, so to kind of also take it back, to give you a little preview of what's coming, we didn't just tell Jack that we wanted him to just brew us a beer. We actually gave him the beer that we wanted to brew.
We gave him a good brief.
Yeah, we gave him a good brief, but essentially I've just told him, can you make my favourite Verdant dipper, please?
Yeah, so you've been...
An interpretation of
You've been lamenting the lack of...
Keep
left by Verdant because they haven't brewed it for many, many years. Was it a one-off or did they do it?
No, they did it a couple of times.
Yeah, I thought so. Yes, but
it was originally brewed with Equilibrium.
That's right. Yeah,
and then they brewed it perhaps once or twice after that.
It was a banging beer, and you always say that's your favourite beer you've ever had.
It was a formative beer for me, an origin story.
Beer. So you demanded that Baron replicate that to the best of his ability, really, and. God bless him. He took that with both hands and he jumped straight in.
And he's made it his own as well. I mean, we haven't tried it yet, but to all intents and purposes, he is putting his own spin on it. And he's also thrown in a couple of things about, which I think homebrew is actually going to find interesting because he's got a couple of little hints and tips which he thinks makes brewing a New England dipper or even just a New England IPA. It's the base malts and all that sort of stuff that goes into it. He's got some good ideas.
I can't wait for that video to come out, actually, because it's really, really enlightening. So he's put a lot of thought into the ingredients. As you said, we talk quite a lot about the hops you'd expect, about the malts, the water, the yeast as well. So we go into a bit of detail around that. So that's going to be really cool. But you've kind of given the game away a little bit.
I have, yeah.
Because you've said what we're brewing is obviously a replica of Keep Left, which is a New England style dipper. So that's exactly what we're going to get, hopefully.
Yeah.
8.2% we're aiming for.
8.2, yeah.
So
I haven't given away the name or the artwork.
No. So
that's all.
We've got the artwork.
Looks so sick.
I've just had I've just had it printed off for us actually for our first beer. So
I've now got to try and convince my wife that we should
an
have an
A1
A1 print of the artwork in the house.
I may have gone a bit overzealous with the sizing of that print, but yeah, it's an A1 print. It looks amazing. I can't wait for everyone to see it.
Yeah, and also it will be available for everyone to buy. Obviously, more details of this is going to be going forward, but it's going to be sold through Jack. Obviously, a lot of bottle shops and stuff that we've put forward as well in the Midlands area predominantly.
Oh, and it'll be on the usual
Distant
distro
lands,
channels
yeah.
as well for people who want to pick some up. But yeah, it's going to be blinding, and if anyone who knows and hopefully respects Baron's dippers, then it's going to be good.
You're not going to be disappointed.
No.
I think what's nice about it as well is he's also used this as a time to experiment himself. Like he's tried a new malt, a new base malt, which he hasn't tried before. He's tried a new technique.
He's tried some new stuff. Yeah.
So it's really nice that he's actually he's thrown a lot of money at the beer, which we absolutely appreciate, because this was very much a vanity project for us.
We learned a lot about young Jack Barron that day. We love him anyway. He's a great lad.
He's got a HGV license.
He has, yeah. Man, that guy can drive a truck.
He certainly can.
What I learned most, I'll rephrase that. What surprised me to learn about Jack was after we'd done the brewing, we went for lunch. It was an early start for us. We were up at 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock in the morning, yeah.
On the road, and we hit Barron's about 8:30, 9 o'clock. I forget when we got down. But once the brewing had finished,
8, I think.
Yeah, it was about 8 o'clock. So we'd finished the brewing and we went for lunch at a local pub. And this local pub had a Baron beer on.
Yeah.
His Session Pale, Fuzz. We ordered a Fuzz. Jack comes in, and what does he order?
Oh,
a pint of Timothy Taylor, landlord.
Quite a landlord, please, landlord.
So he's a big trad cask fan by all accounts.
It feeds into every stereotype of a brewer.
Yeah.
Except I don't think he was wearing Carhartt, but he was wearing some form of.
I was a bit hopped out at that point as well, so yeah, if it was a bit ruder, I probably would have had the landlord myself, to be honest with you, because it looked fucking good when he poured that out.
Yeah, it did. It looked like a really good pint, and it was a really nice lunch. Yeah,
I can't think about food at the moment.
No.
Anyway, this is a nice beer. Anyway, so
it's good beer.
You can definitely tell the Baron influence, but I don't know enough about Bluntrock to say if they've had a massive impact on this. But
if you fancy a holiday to Cornwall, let's go to Bluntrock.
Let's go to Bluntrock. But this is cracking. I'll look forward to trying some Bluntrock stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, that's good. So Wheelbarrow Antics, like I say, that's where it all comes from. Who brews a beer called Wheelbarrow Antics?
It could be a lot of people, really.
Yeah. I kind of think it needs to have a bit of a farm vibe, maybe, or construction.
It feels a little bit like what Pomona Island would do, but obviously then it would have to have some cultural reference point, film, TV, music,
maybe,
or it is,
or lyrics or something,
lyrics or something like that. But
Wheelbarrow Antics. I mean, it could be Pomo.
Yeah. Why not? Let's just
Neon Raptor. I think
let's just pretend there's a film that exists with the scene where they reference Wheelbarrow Antics.
Yeah,
and pretend it's that. So I reckon this is a fake film.
Maybe there's a Tory MP who's having sex with a wheelbarrow.
Oh, bound to be.
Yeah,
they love it.
Yeah.
I was minding my own business when my belt came undone and my trousers fell down and I tripped over and landed penis first into a wheelbarrow. I struggled for several minutes before I realised the paparazzi were indeed behind me filming.
I got scared, tried to pull out, but then went back in.
Yes, it just kept happening. I was off my meds that day.
Yes, but it was a good-looking wheelbarrow. It was from Homebase.
Homebase.
Homebase. I mean, is that a good quality wheelbarrow?
Does it wheel squeak?
Has it got a good action? Nice low action.
Anyway, sexy wheelbarrows.
Okay, well, that took a turn. I can only perhaps blame myself for that. I did take that dinner. Good beer. What else is there to talk about? We should talk about, obviously, we go from terpenes to turps, maybe.
Yeah, so...
World's strongest beer.
So, yeah.
That was our first video of 2025.
Oh, God, I regret that. So Chris had this harebrained idea of drinking the world's strongest beer when he came across what purported to be the world's strongest beer, which is actually not the beer we ended up drinking, but it was a beer called Snake Venom. Was it Venom Juice?
Snake Venom.
Yeah, I mean this is the first beer you found, which at the time you thought was the world's strongest beer.
Yeah.
I'm raising this for a reason because I think it's pertinent to the conversation. However, after you'd ordered that or were about to order it, you found out there was actually a stronger beer, which came from the same people, not the same brewery, but the same person. I'm going to say that at this stage. So the same person might have worked for a company who did this Snake Venom, but then went one bigger, decided to go all out and do the world's strongest beer, or marketedly the world's strongest beer.
That's certainly my theory.
So this beer was how strong? 75%.
75%.
And
Snake Venom.
You know what? I'm not going to call it beer. This drink was 75%, and the reason I'm not going to call it beer is because it was probably a base beer which they just put pure ethanol into.
Which, it was essentially. It was just 75% food grade ethanol. I saw it on one of the comments.
And I mean, I'd rather drink terps.
Yeah.
And the reason I raised the thing about the original beer, the Snake Venom beer or Snake Juice, whatever it's called, I can't remember.
Snake Juice.
Snake Juice.
Venom, yeah.
Snake Venom is... how strong was that, by the way?
67.5.
Yeah, but that was actually freeze distilled, so it was actually brewed as a beer.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
As opposed to having stuff thrown into it and saying it's the world's strongest something.
It said that it had gone through some freezing. I don't know whether it was freeze distilled, but,
Well, whatever. But, it's probably got more a right to call itself a beer than whatever that filth was we drank. So we drank it on a Saturday morning about 11 o'clock. You, after your first taste, you basically nearly threw up.
Yeah, it wasn't nice.
Because as Chris said, it was food grade ethanol.
It just wasn't nice. It wasn't pleasant. There's nothing.
It just burned and it was awful.
Yeah,
it was an awful experience.
The worst part about it
making me go through it.
The worst part about it as well is, and this is the thing where maybe the dead internet theory will come into it, is because one of the theories behind that is with algorithms and stuff now, people are less and less about making content that they want to do or that they care about, and are more and more about trying to make content that just gets through an algorithm.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
And that's essentially the whole reason why we did World's Strongest Beer, because we thought, if you type in World's Strongest Beer in YouTube, you're getting videos that have got like hundreds of thousands of views, so why the hell would that be any different for us? Let's just go down the clickbait route. Let's just make it. Let's drink the World's Strongest Beer, see what happens. And just put a thumbnail on it and then hopefully it should work. Turns out, no, it doesn't work like that.
It's been all right.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to when we did something like the most expensive beer we've drank, which was £89, that got over 1,000 within a couple of days.
Yeah.
This one has got like about 500 after a few weeks.
Yeah.
And which I think says to me that our core don't want to see us fucking around, messing around with like the most expensive or the most strongest beer in the world or whatever. What they want to see is, why is that beer so expensive?
I mean, we've got discerning audience members, you see. We're trying to lowest common denominator.
We've got the classy birds.
We've got the classy hoplords.
Yeah, the classy hoplords. Yeah, we've almost certainly not got classy birds because according to YouTube analytics, our viewers are 100% male.
Absolute sausage fest. Absolute sausage fest, this place.
But yes, so that's a thing that we did. Kind of regret it, but hey, it is at least, as they call it, evergreen content, which means that it doesn't age, it's just there. And it'll be there for whenever people search in years to come.
Yeah, no,
a monument to our disgrace.
We don't do this for the stats, Chris. We do this for the love of beer and the funny.
And also sometimes a bit of stats. As a weird experiment.
Give me some stats, juicy stats. But yeah, so
that's what we were doing.
So yeah, please, if you ever get the opportunity to try, what was it called actually? Betha Fire. Betha Fire.
Scottish Betha Fire.
And what was the brewery in inverted commas called?
I don't remember.
Whatever it's called. Anyway, it's called Betha Fire. So if you get a chance to drink it, don't.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it.
We gave quite a few, because we were filming in our local tap room, the Hot Vault, and we gave quite a few people the opportunity to try it. People who were sat in the bar. I think maybe one person said it was quite nice. That person was insane.
Clinically.
Or like he literally had no taste buds. But yeah, bloody awful. So no, not recommended.
Yeah, just no. And for 45 quid, 50 quid with postage, you can get yourself a damn good bottle of whiskey for that.
Or you could just drink whatever paint strip you've got in your garage.
Or just do that and save yourself 50 quid.
Right, the dog's kicking off, Chris, so I'm going to let her out.
It's time for a quick dog break.
Dog break, and then we'll crack back on. Welcome back to the Fantasy Beer Name podcast.
Hi.
Right, so dog has been let out, so we've probably got a little bit of peace for 20 minutes before the little psychopath comes banging on the door to come back in.
Potentially, who knows.
So should we start with a new beer, Chris?
New beer, yeah.
New beer, new brewery.
New brewery to us.
New brewery to us. So this is from a brewery called Crafty Devil, who are over in Cardiff, and they've sent us a few samples, haven't they?
South Wales, massive, yes. Thank you very much to Harry, who sent us, insisted on sending us a couple of samples.
Oh, thanks, Harry.
Just wanted to make sure that I had a couple to make sure that it was worth talking about.
Oh, have you tried these already, have you?
I had one beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it passed
it was a hazy. Yeah.
Your standards test.
It was absolutely. Yeah. It was on form.
I mean, just pouring this out, and it looks.
That looks great. This
is great, actually. Yeah.
It's a collab with Dark Element.
Yeah, Dark Element, to a relatively new brewery.
Yeah.
Great. I think anyway, new to us. I tried a fair few of their beers over Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
Or just before Christmas.
They've got really nice artwork, like the black can thing, you know.
Yeah.
That.
So this is a hazy IPA called Dark Bloom at 6.5%. And it's Citra, Idaho 7, Rowaka, and Strata hopped beer. So, yeah, let's give it a go. It looks like a juicy, juicy bad boy.
I've never heard you pronounce Strata like that before.
Strata. I don't know why I said Strata.
Strata.
It's like a bad man. It's gone to my head.
You're thinking about guitars.
Stratocaster.
It's a Stratocaster.
Stratocaster. I don't know why I said that. Do you do that sometimes when you read something? Your brain just doesn't transpose the word into your brain properly.
All the goddamn time.
That smells lush.
Ooh. It's got a great colour to it. And a nice bit of head retention.
I know there's only one New Zealand hop in there, but it smells very New Zealandy. So Rowaka's doing quite a lot of punchy, heavy lifting there.
I'm getting quite a lot of the Strata, that bubble gum.
Oh, yeah. Very bubbly gum.
Oh, that's good.
Bubba. Oh, that's yummy.
That's good. That's smashable, that.
Oh, yeah, drink that.
6.5?
Yeah, 6.5. Perhaps don't smash it too quickly.
Maybe not. But no, yeah. So, brewery from Cardiff, established 2014. And the samples that they sent had a range of different styles in there.
What else we got?
A couple of hazes. There was a West Coast IPA, which I'm very much looking forward to trying.
Well, we're doing some more recording in a bit. Focused very much around that.
Maybe we'll throw that in.
Maybe we'll throw that in. Oh, lovely. Well, yeah, bang on. Thanks, Harry. Good. Cool. Good stuff. What should we talk about now?
Part of the new format is that it's not that new. We're gonna extend the Doom Bar a little bit, though.
Oh, okay.
So I was thinking, should we axe the Doom Bar? Steve Powers, the Doom Bar.
I don't know why I do that after that.
But then I thought, no, because it's such a nice little pun.
Nice little pun, and we've got to keep the legend of the Powers going.
And I think the other thing about it is as well, it doesn't necessarily have to be about bad news. We can just make it. We can kind of roll in a bit more beer news.
Yeah,
I think there is more stuff going on. It doesn't always need to be negative. Let's try and put just just a new spin.
Yeah, well, we'll just adopt the Doom Bar as a what's in the news this week?
Yeah,
kind of thing. Like
or this month because we do this.
Yeah, I don't do this weekly. Oh God,
I mean that'd be a lot of effort.
Can you imagine the kebabs we'd have to eat? Right. Okay. So what's in the news this month, Chris?
Banks's have officially been killed off.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Banks's beer officially gone. So,
Legacy Brewery gone.
Yes, this one popped up on 25th of January. Last orders as 3 beers disappear from pubs.
So this is Carlsberg.
Carlsberg Marston's.
That's it, Carlsberg Marston. I always forget who's working with who now in their monopolisation of
it's
the
such
industry.
A disgusting circle jerk of
wank.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I imagine at some point we're going to be approaching like AB InBev and Molson Coors and Marston's just merging to make like beer worldwide limited or something, or incorporated.
Yeah, and everything will be Spanish style. Yeah, brewed in Northampton. Yeah,
it's disgusting.
So I've got mixed feelings on this one, right? Because let's put the story into a bit of context. So Banks's is gone, and they're axing a lot of other brand names.
Yeah, so in November 2024, last year, Carlsberg announced that they were basically closing down Banks's brewery as a thing, which just down the road from where we live, in Wolverhampton, there is historic Banks's brewery.
I mean, yeah, and this is why I've got mixed feelings, because it's really hard to ignore the massive impact Banks has had in the world of brewing, but that impact has diminished a long time ago.
Yeah,
in terms of quality and the outputs that they're doing, because they just basically became lowest common denominator beer, really. And they, again, like most breweries became in the 80s, they became landlords more than
absolutely
breweries.
Yeah, it's more of a pub company.
So it's about shifting units as opposed to quality, but I do have a big soft spot for it because I was raised, and my dad used to drink Banks's. He's from Wolverhampton anyway, so Banks's bitter was ever present in the pantry at our house. Yeah, and I think it was probably my first beer I drank. I think.
Yeah, I mean my granddad Bill was very much into Banks's mild. Loved a mild. So after they axed the brewery and the brands, the beers that were affected are Banks's Mild, Banks's Sunbeam, Bombardier Keg, Eagle IPA, Jennings Cumberland Ale, Mansfield Dark Smooth Keg, Mansfield Original Bitter, Marston's Old Empire, Marston's 61 Deep, Ringwood Boondoggle, and Ringwood Old Thumper. So I don't know what people are going to do now when they're buying their relatives who like craft beer one of those supermarket boxes.
Yeah, the best of British. Yeah, God, there's going to be a few empty shelves. What's Santa going to deliver this year from your auntie to the craft beer lover in your family?
So those are dead. And then on top of that, in barrel version, in cask or whatever, you've got Banks's Mild, Banks's Sunbeam, and Old Empire. Now, Sunbeam was kind of like the relaunch or the rehash of Banks's Bitter.
Yeah, I mean, Sunbeam is undrinkable.
It's disgusting.
It's fucking awful.
It's died the death that it needed.
Yeah, and that's why I've got mixed feelings, because there we go, another legacy brewery has gone, but it needed to be put out of its misery. It's just a shame that it was the big monopolies that were the ones to do that. But oh man,
what is going to be interesting now though is to see because this news article was written about a pub in, I think it was like Brierley Hill or somewhere like that, somewhere over the hills, and he was basically just bemoaning the fact that now what are his regulars going to drink, and I suppose that does bring out a point of what's going to fill the gap.
Yeah,
because could it be, perhaps not with your Marston's Tide pubs, but could it be that other regional breweries like Holden's, which is another one in just down the road from us, they've got things like Golden Glow, and they've got their own bitter and their own mild,
which is much better anyway, which is far superior.
Maybe they're going to fill in the gap.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at this through the lens of the Midlands brewing industry anyway, and we've got some decent legacy breweries which are still doing good stuff. You just mentioned Holden's, then we've got White Valley, we've got is White Valley the Midlands? I'd argue that, but it's close enough. We'll take it. White Valley and obviously Batham's, but Holden's I think is a really great shout. I think they're in a really good position to fill that void.
Certainly fill up the free houses and stuff that you do still have a lot of across the Black Country and the Midlands.
Yeah.
But predominantly for the ones which are Marston's tied, I imagine that what you're probably going to see is a further rollout of Doombar.
It'll be Doombar. It's going to be
you're
everywhere.
You're going to find that more.
Which is good for us because they sponsor this bit of the channel.
They do,
so we'll be quids in.
To be fair, I've got to say, Doombar was a big formative beer for me back in the early 2010s.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
We were talking about this yesterday, and
I still do like it if you find a good pint of it, but it's just nigh on impossible.
Well, that's it. My wife Hannah said she's all right drinking things like Doombar and Tribute and things like that when you're in the right place for it. I mean, we had some great times just going around Cornwall drinking lashings of Tribute. And while it was never brilliant, it was all right for that setting, with the right people. I think last time we did that with my dad and Hannah's dad and watching the rugby. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of helps with the environment that you're in. But it's just shitty beer in general. Kept badly, mass-produced, pumped out really quickly, goes through the pipes.
Yeah.
And the pourers incredibly quickly, and for the most part, I'd rather have a Guinness, let's be honest.
Yeah. No, well, this is the thing, isn't it? In other news, move on to the next item. We need to talk about sponsorship. You had a very interesting video the other day, didn't you?
I did. Should we play it?
Yeah. So, Roll VT, was that saying in the industry?
They do, yes.
Yeah.
Paul, it's your old friend Nathaniel Edward Charles Houghton here for Mosaic, Europe's leading beer mat producer. I'm happy to tell you that we will be continuing to sponsor the show. Happy Friday, Chief.
Well, that's great news. That basically keeps our lights on. That keeps us going and doing interesting things for another year.
Yeah, that's cool. So, yeah, Mosaic.
This podcast is currently still sponsored by
Hooray!
Mosaic Board Printers, Europe's leading beer mat manufacturer. Recently today, recently this week, we had a message off Damien, who's a friend of the channel. Damien from Emperors, Yep. And he messaged me and was asking about a contact at Mosaic Board Printers because he wanted to get some beer mats made up.
Yay.
And I put him in touch with Nathan, and Nathan sorted him out.
Yeah, well, I think if you want to be in the same kind of company as someone as prolific and as well respected as Emperor's Brewing, then why don't you go over to Mosaic Board Printers?
Why don't you also get your beer mats from there? Because, if it's good enough for Damien and the way he brews beer.
Oh, yeah.
If those beer mats can withstand the sheer force of all that.
The force.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was doing that.
It's a Star Wars reference,
Imperial
guys.
Stout, that thick, gloopy Imperial Stout, hitting it, and it soaks it up nice.
Who's your favourite Star Wars character? Mine is Dr. Spock.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he's good as well.
Yeah.
Frodo.
Yes. So that's great news because that essentially means that we are able to keep doing things like this, and long may we continue.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, so we got kind of sort of thrown out of the Doombar a little bit there. So
not really. I mean, that was all part of the Doombar.
Okay, fair enough.
It's all part of the news, isn't it?
I suppose it is all part of the news.
We are the news.
We make our own news. But there's got to be something else, Chris.
Well, it's sort of like when you never watched The Traitors, did you?
I refuse to. I'm not going to get pulled into this zeitgeist.
It's so good. But it was sort of like when they were doing the finale, which I wasn't going to watch because I was waiting for my wife to get back. And she wasn't going to be back until the Saturday. So I was trying to avoid it on the Friday. But I just started to get spammed by BBC News, just with The Traitors concludes tonight in a gripping finale. click here to find out more, or click here to see what's happening. It's like, I don't want to see what's happening. I want you to leave me alone. I want you to leave my fucking phone alone so I can just ignore it until tomorrow when I'm going to watch it. That kind of is what we're doing right now. We're just promoting ourselves as news.
Yep.
And that's what the BBC do really well. Just start talking about their own TV shows as news.
This is why I just don't have any notifications on my phone at all.
That's why you never reply to me.
Yep.
That's it.
That's one of the reasons.
Mystery solved. Mystery solved.
Yeah. Yes, that's the reason I don't reply to you.
Let's say that it is.
Yeah, sure, why not? So,
next news article.
Yeah, I know what the next one is, and you can give the details in a minute, but this really got my goat.
This really ground your gears.
It really boiled my piss, Chris.
Yeah. So this is from mid-January, 16th of January. Complaint upheld against Little Mesters Brewing tap handle and pump clip.
Yeah.
A complaint against a Sheffield-based brewery's tap handle and pump has been upheld by the alcohol industry's independent complaints panel, Portman Group.
Right. Okay. Let's just take a minute to remember that name, the Portman Group.
So the complaint about Little Mesters Brewing Stan IPA. The idea of Stan is an homage to one of the last Little Mesters in Sheffield. As much as I appreciate the respect to the history of the city of Sheffield and feel using a knife handle as a tap handle is perhaps a step too far and could encourage alcohol-related violence. So
this is bullshit, right? So again, a bit of context. A Mester is, I'm assuming, a knife maker.
I'm going to assume that that's the case.
Got to be, right? So Stan is obviously a friend of the brewery or someone respected in the community, and they did a pump clip which featured some knives on it.
It basically kind of looked like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
For those of you watching, we'll put it up on screen now. But it's basically a guy holding a knife, a cartoon of a guy holding a knife.
I reckon that's Stan.
With two hands, is presenting it in a very kind of Japanese manner, like two hands, and then around him is just sort of like looks like the Iron Throne.
Yeah,
just a selection of different knives. And apparently, according to the Portman Group, that is a step too far and could encourage knife-related violence.
Yeah. They are going to be annexing IKEA next.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. So,
but I mean,
what a load of nonsense.
See, as far as I'm aware, from what this says, Little Mesters have backed down and agreed to change the clip.
Well, they're going to have to, aren't they?
Well, no, this is the thing, Paul. They don't have to. As with most of these bodies, they're actually a toothless organisation. And the only thing about these guys that would actually block you in the industry would be if you were selling your beers in supermarkets. Maybe supermarkets would pay attention to something that the Portman Group would say. But on the whole, if you're just a craft beer brewery that sell yourselves into bottle shops or whatever, no one would care.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't be able to do a damn thing about it.
No.
And I think more breweries should pay attention to
so that. They wouldn't, in theory, however, we the Portman Group sounds like one of those very sinister think tanks to me. Or certainly it sounds like what like the Tufton.
Tufton Street.
That's these kind of policy making think tanks which are made up of very influential and wealthy individuals. So while it might sound very worthy to be the arbitrator of what's deemed to be moralistic in promotion advertising in the beer world, it kind of goes out the window a little bit when you realise that it's actually funded by all the fucking bad
Would you like to know who they're funded by?
In the world.
They're funded by Asahi UK Limited, Aston Manor Cider,
Fuck off.
Bacardi,
Oh, God.
Beam Suntory,
Don't know who that is.
Brown Foreman, Suntory whiskey, I imagine.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course.
Brown Foreman, no.
Don't know who that is.
Budweiser Brewing Group, Campari, CNC, Coca-Cola, Diageo, Edrington, not Erdington.
No.
Heineken, Mark Anthony Brands International.
Hang on, I got enough booze coming out. They're not coming out fast enough. Boo, boo. I don't know the last one.
Mast Jägermeister, Molson Coors, Pernod Ricard, Punch Pubs,
Yeah.
SHS Drinks, Thatchers, and Treasury Wine Estates.
There's some absolute prize arseholes in that group.
Yeah, some big beer, big beverage companies, and that's where they throw their funding. And it's no doubt just to kind of rat on each other.
It is.
You just know it's just in case.
Sir,
I don't like what they're doing.
But it also feels we might be overthinking. Well, I might be overthinking this. I don't want to drag you into this, Chris, but it does feel a little bit like they're doing it to keep down any potential upstarts, which might threaten some market share or whatever brand they've got. So case in point, they seem to have put a fucking lot of effort into persecuting Beak over the past couple of years.
Yeah, well, that comes back to the Beak thing that happened last year, where they had to change the branding on Dashed. Because
our favourite beer of last year.
They said it was anthropomorphic, happy weather that looked like a kid's cartoon.
Yeah, and we don't want kids talking to the sun.
No.
And
what is important to you could have a point, but what is important to kind of say here is that they don't actually do it themselves. They respond to complaints, and we think that Beak and this one at Little Mesters is something that stemmed from a disgruntled ex-employee or ex-customer or something. A disgruntled person has reported them, knowing full well what the Portman Group will inevitably find, given their history of Buzz Killington activity.
Yeah, understood. But it's really hard to not think there's some kind of agenda attached with the people who are funding this group, because they
write the rules, surely.
Because they write the rules, and they also, if they're funding it, that means there's going to be like a huge degree of homogenization that they want to put into this world. You know, they want to take out creativity. They want to shoot down anyone who's got any kind of thoughts or actions which might sort of derail this kind of monopolistic tedium that you see when you walk into certain pubs.
Should we get the Portman Group on?
I'd love to get the Portman Group on.
Should we? We should do like a hard talk thing. Paxman.
Let's Paxman. No, well, come on. Again, Zeitgeist. Brian Walden, surely, at the moment.
Okay, yeah.
Played by... Let's get Steve Coogan on to play Brian Walden, and we'll get him.
That'd be interesting. I'd totally do that. The thing is, would it just end up being shrinking violets if they came on a call? We just end up being really polite.
I mean,
really polite to them. Oh, thanks for joining the podcast. We just wanted to talk to you about Beaks.
If we're going to get passionate about it, we need a couple of Imperial Stouts in us to really go for it. But I don't think that's the most professional.
It's not professional. It would be interesting because I would like to see it from their side.
There's your clickbait.
Yeah. But ultimately...
Two drunk people from the West Midlands go on rampage and scathing attack of arbitrary...
We could end up just going viral.
Yeah, let's do it.
And this plays into the thing. Should we do it? Probably not. But would we do it to go viral and, perhaps increase our reputation and tank it in equal parts? Yeah, we'd do that.
Yeah, anyway. But it's... Do you know what? It's just a small little brewery, absolutely, no offence, just like a non-entity in the grand scheme of things. I've never even heard of this brewery. Doing a fun little homage to a friend or colleague.
Or a historical figure or something, I don't know.
And you've got Diageo essentially getting involved. I mean, Jesus, let it go, man.
I'm sure
it go.
I'm sure it's not necessarily Diageo, but I know what you mean.
But ultimately, that's some tedious little bore has ratted out this small brewery.
Yeah,
I mean, it feels very much like when I had a bottle shop and we got ratted out by a neighbour who was desperate to get us off his doorstep.
Yeah,
it just little parochial little Englanders, not on my doorstep. NIMBYs, yeah. Just anyway, that's just wow meal.
If a tap room's involved, I'm a YIMBY.
Yes.
In fact, I'm like, just in my kitchen.
I mean, literally my yard.
Yeah, in my kitchen.
Back or front.
Final news article.
Before you do that, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm spitting feathers. Shall we have our last beer of the podcast?
Oh, go on then.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of this beer. Putty
2025. Hello.
It's back again. The liquid equivalent of Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah. I mean, very much welcome back.
So
I'm a huge fan.
It's kind of had it feels, well, maybe because I'm not in the industry anymore, but it feels like it's had less of a fanfare this year.
I think
I've seen it promoted everywhere, but it doesn't seem the buzz doesn't seem to be there for people.
I think that it probably peaked like 21, which was probably the first time that I
Same.
properly got involved.
Same with me.
The first time I probably got involved.
Is that why it peaked when you got involved?
I think so.
Well, when I got involved, it peaked.
Probably is.
Like most things.
I think it's just because things are kind of dropping off a bit now in terms of like COVID is now 5 years ago.
Oh God, don't say that. That's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah. And that's very much when I got into craft beer as we know it now.
Because it wasn't as we know it before you got involved.
No.
That's when it peaked.
No, when I came. Yeah, exactly. But I think the scarcity of putty was very much a kind of thing that it was drilled in by by the big influx of people that we had through the COVID period. You know, people like me who ended up like finding peace with this sort of thing. I mean, like, this is the best thing I've had since sliced bread. Obviously, depending on bread.
Yeah, what are you thinking this year? Because this is not our first can of putty this year. We've had we've had it on keg. We've had a few cans of it.
So when I drank my first bit of it at the Hot Vault on the first pour thing, I was underwhelmed.
So, well, we were together, weren't we?
Yeah,
with quite a few people actually. There's quite a few our buddies happened to be in the same place at the same time.
This is something I've always said, and I still stand by this. I think that beers on keg, whether that's because they're colder or what, they have less impact on the ronk and on the taste as they do from can. The can is always much more, and I'm assuming it's because this is pressurized, right? And
it's not exclusive to putty, but I would agree with that. I think every time I drink putty, the can version it feels superior.
Yeah. And I could smell this from there as soon as you opened it, and I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm getting to. But when it came for my first sip of it on first pour day, I was like, I can kind of tell that it's putty, but it felt kind of muted to me. That was a bit.
The weird thing with putty for me, I always get underwhelmed the first pour of it. The first time we try it each year, it's like it's fine. It's nice. It's very nice. It's good. But then you drink it all, and you don't realise how much you've enjoyed it, and you finish it, and then you get another beer, and you go, it's not putty. And you feel disappointed that you're not drinking putty. Yeah, it's what I mean. It's like it is like Stockholm syndrome. It's like
I wish I was still kidnapped by that guy.
Yeah, it's exactly that. But anyway, if you don't know what putty is, and I'm sure most people do listen to this, but putty is a Verdant annual beer they bring out every January, and it's a double IPA, 8%, Azaka, Galaxy, Mosaic, and it's an absolute tropical mouthfest.
Yeah, and it's the hypest beer in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, it has been historically. I think the hype's dying a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think the hype will ever die on it. I think it's always going to carry that hype with it.
Maybe I'm just numb to it.
It could be that, but I think it's, as far as hype goes, I'd say it's like a heady topper kind of hype. It's just that it isn't brewed it's not brewed
constantly
all the time. Yeah.
Anyway, we've done loads of stuff on putty in the past.
Yeah, check out
YouTube. It's all in there. We go to town on this bad boy. But yeah, it's every time we open a can.
I mean, this is
happy days, right?
This is
your face is brightened right up, Chris. After all that bad news.
There's actually.
But they can't all be bad news.
No, we do have some news here.
We've got some funny news, actually.
This is odd.
Funny odd, not funny haha.
Yeah, this is in the offbeat section.
Go on then.
Lidl wins legal battle to open its first ever pub.
Hey, Lidl pub.
This is over in County Down in Belfast. A legal win has cleared the way for discount supermarket Lidl to open its first pub inside one of its stores after the High Court rejected a challenge to the proposal. It was being challenged by an off-licence or
It was a businessman who owned a bunch of off-licences in the area who probably quite rightly is saying it's going to impact his business.
But what is interesting, and what I did find interesting, this is something that we should perhaps explore on a trip to Northern Ireland. Oh, yeah. Their licensing laws are fucking weird.
Okay.
So essentially the way it works over there, their licenses are capped. And before they give out a new license, alcohol license, they have to wait for someone to go out of business.
Oh,
so someone's basically closed and then it's been given to Lidl.
That makes sense. Now, okay, I understand now why he put that complaint forward. That puts a lot more context on it then.
Yeah, and it says it. Lidl obtained a planning proposal in 2020 to build a tap room on their Dundonald site, which is located just outside of Belfast. I love the idea of a tap room inside a Lidl, joining the Hope and Champion at Beaconsfield as one of the most unusual places to have a pub.
Yeah.
Which is in a service station.
Yeah, we should do unusual places
pubs,
for pubs or bars or tap rooms. Yeah,
that'd be really good.
That'd be really cool, man. Because we talked about doing the most hard to get to pubs, if you remember.
Yes,
we found some mental places, like right up in the mountains of Scotland, or just in the middle of nowhere. But what would a Lidl pub look like? I mean,
what would it sell?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a Lidl pub; it's a pub in Lidl.
Maybe
because
I don't know. I mean,
Lidl only sell they sell like brand name German and Belgian stuff, and the macro beers.
It could be full of some very nice German lagers.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, but they don't do any craft stuff. It. So maybe I don't know what that is. I don't know how happy I'd be sat in Lidl drinking macro beer.
But maybe it isn't macro beer, maybe it's just German beer.
Maybe it's German beer.
Yeah.
Maybe.
In which case...
Quids in.
Would you really be against that? I mean, I think it's an interesting idea, and it's definitely worth a visit once it's all in play.
I've got to say, though, Lidl, not for beer, but for wine and spirits in general, is bloody good.
Is it? I don't really go. They're one of the the sparsest of supermarkets, because I know where our local one is, but it's just so far away compared to everything else. I can't be fucked.
There's only one in Old Swinford. It's only 2 minutes away.
Old Swinford?
Not Old Swinford, sorry. Ambercote.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, but it's just too far away.
Too far away.
It's too far away.
You lazy bastard. we could leave now and be there like within 3 minutes if we tried.
It still feels too far away. Maybe if it had a pub. Yeah, that said, it's opposite the Maverick pub.
The Maverick pub, which is a weird.
It's a really weird. It's got one. It's a cowboy themed pub.
It's an Old West themed pub, which sounds mental, but it just seems completely normal.
It really works
in the suburb of Stourbridge.
I remember when in just before COVID, and they've got this giant wheel on the wall, which you can just spin. But like each of the sections are actually like. I can't remember what's actually on the sections, whether it's like numbers or colours or whatever, but it's like a spin the wheel thing, but you can gamble. You could basically just bet, which is what me and my mates were doing. We're just putting money in as to what we thought was going to come in, and yeah,
I have not been to that pub in many years, but used to go there quite a lot because it used to be open really late, so you could go there after the other pubs had closed and you could watch a band and whatnot. It used to be really good.
Ooh.
But I don't know if they've still
stage in there. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm kind of semi-making this up in my sort of drunken, blurred mind, but they used to have those, those proper saloon doors.
Yeah, they've still got them.
Are they still there?
Yeah,
because people used to go through there so quickly when they were pissed. And I'll be honest with you, Stourbridge in the early 2000s, it wasn't just alcohol. A lot of people were on.
Yeah, that's gone like now.
So there'd be people like seriously hurting themselves because the slap back on those saloon doors were pretty aggressive.
Fuck,
like they'd take your eyeballs out.
Yeah. We should go. We should do like a video where we just go and visit some of our local pubs.
The bar and have a in Stourbridge. So okay. So advocate for tap rooms in weird places. Let us know
if you've got any suggestions.
We'd
weird.
love to know about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously you've got that Wetherspoons, as per mentioned, at the service station, just outside London. You're going to have a Lidl that's got a. Yeah, let's see what else we could find.
I'm a big advocate of that. Supermarket-based tap rooms.
Yeah, and as people will recognise right now, we've got some different music going on. Do you hear that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, as part of the little brand refresh, I've changed the music up a bit.
I mean, it's the bare minimum you could do, really, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. I mean, it was just more the fact that I got bored of the site that we were using the music on, and I couldn't carry on using it without renewing a license with them. So I've just gone to a better site and got better music now.
Now we're earning the big bucks through Mosaic again.
We can afford to.
We can get all the music.
Yeah.
So, what else are we going to talk about? Or shall we wrap up this putty and walk off our kebab?
Well, I mean, on the subject of Putty, I remember you were sending me a link to some funny comments that you were reading.
Oh, yes. Great shout.
On the UK beer Reddit.
So I'm a long-time Reddit lurker. I think a lot of people are. And for my sins, because, sticking needles in my eyes is not good enough, I do go through the craft beer forums of Reddit. And my God, that's an eye-opening place to go. It's both enlightening, hilarious, and fucking depressing at the same time.
I find Reddit a really weird one because I'm subscribed to a load of different things, Reddit forums or whatever, but then I always end up just getting things like suggested posts like Asda. It'll be like an employee talking about Asda, and I'm like, what the fuck's this? Why is this being advertised at me? Or like Nottingham.
I think Asda peaked when you started going.
Yeah, it could be it. But
Nottingham.
Yes. No,
suggestive view. Nottingham
and legal advice and stuff
nice.
like that. There's like all these ones that
beige.
just kind of keep getting like thrown my way, and I'm like, why am I getting this?
We've got recommended to me for some bizarre reason. And I think this is. I know I'm an older person now because I don't understand trends.
Yeah.
There's a trend or a page for this on Reddit called word chewing. Now, are you aware of this new or relatively new phenomenon of kids on TikTok or whatever social they're using pretending to be anime characters?
Oh, for fuck's sake! No, I don't know that.
So you know how anime characters have and Pixar movies as well. Just exaggerated facial expressions when they're talking and they're pulling weird phases because that's the medium of theatre and cinema. They replicate that in real life, so you get people who look like real anime characters doing exaggerated facial movements and miming along to scenes from these movies, and it's fucking nuts.
This is how Mark Zuckerberg this is how Mark Zuckerberg destroyed the world.
I think we can blame a lot more than Zuckerberg here.
But I mean, when it comes to social media, Tom Anderson is the last, I think, decent billionaire.
That's MySpace Tom. Yeah.
No, I think he literally cashed out.
He's a
and then
photographer.
He just vanished. Yeah, he just went and did some photography, and he's
just traveling. Goes around the world taking photos.
And he didn't have any nefarious schemes like I'm gonna take over political discourse or...
Well, he was very early on, though, wasn't he? So he got out before he probably could get manipulated or, sucked into darker paths.
Yeah, possibly. But anyway, let's finish that conversation.
Anyway, so Reddit, So anyway, Reddit. So if you go on any of the craft beer forums on Reddit, but specifically I'm talking in this case about UK beer. It's called UK_beer. And I just, idle scrolling yesterday and came across something about Putty. And I think the question on Reddit was, has anyone had Putty this year? And the comments, holy shit! Talk about people who are solely unqualified or not knowledgeable in any subject, commenting on something they shouldn't be commenting on. It baffled me.
What were they saying?
And this is not beer snobbery. This is people who don't even know what Putty is. These are people who go, craft beer. £4 a pint, you must be mad.
Crazy.
These kind of people. But they were talking about costs of Putty, and everyone's just raving and going mental about the cost of a pint of Putty.
$6.50 for a half.
That's £12. That's like £13 a pint. You don't drink a pint of Putty, you fucking arseholes. You could. Well, you could, but that's on you.
I don't know why you would.
Why would anyone pay £13 a pint? Well, no one pays £13 a pint. Do they? They drink a third or a half or 2/3 if they're feeling particularly sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
there's a real misunderstanding.
A complete misunderstanding,
scene,
but it just really hammers home that people still use in the UK still use the pint as the de facto measurement and arbiter of beer quality and cost. It's baffling to me that people still think like this.
No, it's a great point. We've always talked about the fact that why do we do pints? Because really, when I come back from Belgium, I just always have this moment of just thinking, I don't need to drinking pints anymore. But then you always do end up like
a pint
thrown back onto it.
A pint of lower, it has to be lower end ABV stuff now compared to what what beer is nowadays. But traditional, best bitter or mild or something like that in a pint is a thing of wonder and beauty, and in the right place, the right time. It's great. You can't be going 6% upwards in pints anymore. Well, you can. Anyway, you can do anything you want, but
it should be encouraged.
It doesn't work, and I'm not behind this kind of push to make 2/3 the standard, right? Because that removes a lot of the schooner, which is really good for stronger modern beers. We get that, and it also obviously limits the amount you drink, which is fine. But it does remove the idea of a pint of traditional beer, which takes a little bit of the history away from it and the way things should have been drank. I still think there should be a push to conserve, the classic milds and the bitters of the world, which are definitely sessionable in pint glasses.
It's kind of like that though when we go to Hop Vault and we have the cask there, and sometimes we don't do the pint because we know what we're going to be drinking. So we don't say, I'll have a pint of cask and give it us in the fucking dimple glass with the handle on. They've got the little Barlow glasses now, haven't they?
We call it the Barlow glass. So the half pint dimple glasses, which they're so cute.
Yeah.
But Barlow, obviously named after Ken Barlow from Coronation Street.
Which I've never seen.
You've never seen Coronation Street, but you're aware it exists.
I'm aware of it, yeah.
You're aware of Ken Barlow as
I've heard the name.
As a cultural icon.
I don't know what he's got to do with this.
He always had in his hand one of those small dimple glasses when he was in.
Was it always a small one?
It was always a small
one. Or did he just have big hands? Are we just unaware on the size of his hands?
It was a small glass. It was a small. It was a half. It was not a small glass. It was a half. It was a standard size half pint glass. But he always had one of them. So, let's get Barlow trending as the official name for half pint dimple glasses, please.
But why shouldn't there be a 2/3 one?
Yeah, but
maybe that should be the new thing.
I'm an advocate of the schooner because half sometimes is not enough. But a pint quite often is too much. It's certainly the bigger beers.
You're right.
And 2/3 for me personally tends to be the sweet spot. So I think that's really good.
And let's be honest, the pint would always still be there as an option. You still can if you want.
Exactly. Well, hopefully it'll be there as an option. So right. So the Putty's kicking in.
Yeah, that was really good. I think what we should do for the last couple of minutes is just announce that we are, as part of our 3rd birthday, launching the Patreon.
Yes. So we've been chomping a bit to a Patreon, but we're very much aware that we don't want to just do something that hasn't got any thought behind it. So we've been thinking about how we're going to add value to hopefully
try to make it a nice thoughtful proposition. Yeah.
Thoughtful proposition. So we're going to be doing quite a lot of stuff this year to make sure that Patreon members get very exclusive content, but also worthwhile content as well.
So we're looking at incorporating a Discord forum, as do other craft beer channels. Yeah. So we're going to do that, and then we're also going to do exclusive content. So we'll also be bringing in an exclusive podcast, which will be for Patreons only.
Mm-hmm. Extended versions of some of our new format stuff we got going on.
It'll be extended versions. You'll still find the same stuff on YouTube. You find the same stuff that we've always done, but at the base level one, the taster, for £2 a month, you'll be able to get access to the Patreon only content, which is going to be well worth it. There's going to be an extra podcast in there. There's going to be extended versions of the videos that we have done. There's going to be all manner of stuff like that. I keep thinking about what I always see when people try and sell it, like behind the scenes content. But like, if you want that, there'll be a bit of that if you want it. But I always think it's a bit of a lazy thing.
We're going to do some very particular stuff for our
Patreon exclusive
members.
Stuff, and I think that's the main point. We want you to be involved, and there's going to be another tier as well where you can join the Discord and basically start telling us. Start curating the podcast for us, the Patreon podcast, because I think the idea of it is it's going to be a build your own adventure. You can tell us the breweries to drink. You can decide the style of music that we have on the bed and underneath.
Can you do the hard work for us?
But yeah, it's all like waiting to be ironed out for the end of the month.
And again, just
when we launch.
Yeah, and just to kind of hammer home what we're doing, we've got some, hopefully, by the sounds of it, we've got some really interesting collabs coming up, stuff we wouldn't have even thought of last year as things we're going to do. We've got some really interesting formats. We're going to be speaking to some really interesting people, not just in the beer world, but certainly beer adjacent, potentially. So lots and lots and lots of really cool shit we want to do, and we're going to do. And yeah, it's going to be a fun old year, I think.
It'll be a gay old time. So when we launch that, you guys will be the first to know, and we'll start launching a bit of a PR blitz campaign on it. But yeah, I think that concludes this.
That was good. Let's go walk off this kebab, dude.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Right, bless ya.
Thank you very much for watching. This episode has been sponsored, as is the rest of the show, by Mosaic Board Printers, beer mats for your bar. See you next time.
Bye.
The Fantasy Beer Name podcast is brought to you by Planet Beer TV. This episode was recorded by Luke Bartlett. Thanks once again to our wonderful sponsors, Mosaic Board Printers.